Marc Freedman has a purpose. As managing partner and co-founder of Evolved Profits, he and his team have over 40 years of experience in helping businesses free up cash so that it can be reinvested into helping employees, growing the business, and creating positive social impact. He is a serial entrepreneur, CEO, and the best-selling author of Expense to Profit: Eliminate the Costs That Sabotage Your Growth. Marc loves helping companies create more profits while being an agent for change. This is his purpose, and in an effort to help more companies and more people, Marc, along with co-host Yanik Silver, author of Evolved Enterprise, bring you Profits with Purpose, a podcast that aims to do just that. On the show, Marc and Yanik talk to successful corporate decision makers, exploring valuable lessons learned, experiences in growing a company, ways to reduce expenses, and all the ways a company can have a positive social impact. Join us each week and get in on the discussion so we can all have more profits with purpose. And now, here's your host, Marc Freedman.
Welcome to Profits with Purpose. Today's guest is Julio Gonzalez, the founder and CEO of Engineered Tax Services, a national tax and reform expert. Julio's focus was to bring specialized engineering tax studies to mainstream America, which historically had only been available to Fortune 500 and public companies through the national accounting firms. He founded the Engineered Tax Services Company to marry the science of engineering with the principles of tax and accounting. He wanted to bring specialty tax services to mainstream America, where previously it had only been available to public companies through the Big Four accounting firms. Named one of the top 100 most influential people in accounting by Accounting Today, Julio's acquired the Growth Partnership, the Rosenberg Survey, and Able CRM in 2020 to establish the largest specialty tax and consultative firm to the CPA community nationwide. Additionally, he also received an award for the 10 most innovative business leaders to look out for in 2021. He also works weekly with Washington, D.C. to work with the administration, Congress, and the Senate, advising on tax reform, and he's a go-to expert representing many national organizations and associations. He's a regular public speaker on the national level regarding tax reform and tax sophistication for wealth preservation. Julio, my friend, welcome to Profits with Purpose.
Thanks for having me back. It's such an honor to be back with you.
Yeah, so let's talk about your background and how you actually ended up in accounting.
You know, that's a great question. Well, grew up in Miami and, went out to University of Colorado for a change of scenery. I didn't know we had mountains and snow and all that thing. So it was great. I came over from Cuba to escape Castro and the communism over there and give us all an opportunity here in the United States to have our own dreams. And certainly my dream, and I think it was a family dream, to go to college. And I just connected with accounting and got an opportunity to work with some of the big accounting firms right after college. But what I saw then was that we were doing all these types of tax credits and incentives so that these Fortune 500 big public companies were paying taxes, right? They were using all aspects of the tax code. And I realized that these programs were never going to be available to, most small business owners because their accounting firms just wouldn't have that sophistication. So in 2001, I embarked on a journey to start my company, which now 21 years later. And now today we work with several thousand accounting firms, and we're a resource to them, much like the Big Four is for the Fortune 500. And what we try to do is take 1 million pages of tax code and take some of those sophisticated tax credits and incentive programs that the lobbyists for the big corporations put into our tax code and made it very obscure. And obviously the IRS doesn't market these programs, but it is complicated to take advantage of these programs, and the accounting firms, they just don't have the capacity or the knowledge. And so we became that partner to them. And so with these accounting firms we work with, if their client is buying real estate, if they're growing, they're doing innovation, there's a lot of ways to take advantage of these tax benefits to lower their tax liabilities. And what does that mean? That means that money that would typically go to the IRS goes into their capital and helps them grow their businesses and helps them grow employment and be rewarded like all the Fortune 500 companies are for doing what's great, which is creating employment and creating a better GDP in our country.
Great. So as a business owner, we all find that there's challenges when you start your business. What were yours back 21 years ago? And as you have evolved over the years, and how have you overcome them?
The challenges are immense, right? Because when I went to school, they didn't teach us how to start a business and all the issues that come up, from employment issues, right, to capital issues, to having access to capital,
Right.
to everything you can think of from a legal standpoint, from a financial standpoint. There's so many challenges. And, fortunately, I had some good friends, some good peers that had started their business that were helpful to me in going through all these different issues that come up, how do you start payroll? How do you hire someone? How do you have an employment contract, right? What happens when an employee leaves? I mean, there's so many things to it, and I think for me, the best advice was to have a mentor who has gone through that, has done through that. I had coffee this morning and this lady, has her own med spa, and one of her employees is not working out and it's not going well. But how does she go about with the termination? How does she then, she felt like this person was going to be hostile. And how do we protect ourselves from that? And is she going to go out and talk to her clients, maybe start her own business, start a competitive business? And, my heart breaks for people like that, because here's a person that just started a business, is starting to make a profit, make a difference in our community. And then she has these roadblocks, these hurdles, and for her, they're very serious. And I think for all of us in that situation, we've been through that. Fortunately, I was able to give her some advice. I hope it was helpful. Things that you just never would think about, because I think when you start a business, you just say, I got this great idea, let me do it, and let me see what happens. But there's so much to it, right?
Right, of course. Yeah, and the other thing too is, you fortunately, as you've been in the business world, as long as we all have, you gain that experience through the College of Hard Knocks, right? By experiencing them themselves, and hopefully you learn a lesson that you can then help, like you did this morning with this other individual, and give them advice, just because, hey, look, I've been through that, right? I understand what you're going through, and here's how we did it, or maybe you want to talk to this kind of a person or that kind of a person to, to help you noodle through that same solution. So,
No
yeah.
question.
It's all about overcoming these obstacles in business and keeping your mind focused on what the end result is, and that's being successful. So let's talk about your business and what makes it different from others that are, I always like to call them frenemies, right? Others in the same space, right?
Well, that's a good question. Like, we really started the industry, 20 plus years ago. There wasn't really competitors in the industry. It's unique because, look, we do tax credits that require you to be a licensed engineer. You have to have scientists on board to discover these tax credits and do it in a way that complies with the IRS standards. So there was no industry, and now we have big competition, friendly competition, as you say. And it's such a great question. And I wake up every day thinking, will I become the next taxi cab driver and be sitting on the sidelines to Uber? Will I be the Blockbuster, wondering when's the Netflix coming? I think about that all the time. And so you have to continue to evolve. And what do we do to evolve? We continue to look at other services that we can bring to CPA firms. We started with a few core services and products that we can bring to CPA firms to help their clients, but we have to continue to evolve and find other tax programs that are complicated that can help the CPA and help their client. And you have to also continue to find, a few years ago, I bought a firm that does training management for CPA firms. We bought a CRM program that helps CPA firms. So you have to continue to invest in yourself. You have to continue to differentiate your product. And so one of our core services is cost segregation. That's where we do an engineering study on the building to determine how much of the building is non-structural so that those individuals can write off 30 to 40% of that building immediately versus 40 euros. Now that's very beneficial,
Sure.
but we have competition out there. So we had to continue to evolve what we do with that study. Now we take that study and we send it off to AT&T and see if their roof can qualify for 5G. We look at air rights on it now to see if they can qualify for air rights and so on, or facade easements or energy tax efficiency credits that come with making your building energy efficient. So you constantly have to evolve, but not only evolve your services, you have to get better everyday customer service. You have to continue to get quicker. You have to continue to get better. And we have a mature industry now. So, with that, it becomes more of a commodity. So how do you get your margins improved? And how do we differentiate ourselves and continue to bring more services so that the CPAs continue to look at us versus the competitors?
Yeah, that's a constant challenge I think we all are up against. Let's talk about some of the foundational basics regarding taxes that most people get wrong, where you can be helpful. What are those?
Well, I think really one thing I would say, if you're a small business owner, I would hire an accounting firm that knows your industry and knows your business, because every business has their own tax codes associated with that industry. And I would really work hard to find an accounting firm that just doesn't know tax and tax returns, that absolutely knows your industry so that they can contribute more because of their in-depth knowledge and the fact that maybe they've been working with firms in your industry for 20 years and no different tax programs associated with that. I think that's vital. You got to think of your accounting firm as an investment. If your accounting firm knows your industry and they're doing a good job for you, they should be a return on investment. What I mean by that is maybe you're paying them $5,000 a year to get a tax return done, but they are producing maybe $50,000 to $60,000 in tax credits and other benefits that ultimately that investment is a good return. So I would start there. I think that it's really important that you get that account and knows your industry, knows the knowledge of what you do.
So most companies have a culture that you promote. What is yours and how is that positive for the business?
Well, I'll tell you, culture is vital. You have to create a workplace and invest in your employees to make sure that they are really enjoying the experience and that you sincerely care for them and their families. And, it constantly evolves. We now are working with 2 generations younger than me that have different values. And we went through COVID and now we have several hundred employees that will never go to a building again. They'll work from home. And how do we incorporate them into a culture when they're alone, when they're working from a room in their house, right? It's so unique. And so you have to you really have to kind of continue to think about those things, find out what other firms are doing, what are best practices, what are working out there, continue to research it. We have a lady in HR that 24/7 is looking at culture within our firm, looking at culture and best in class, reports that we see and how we continue to evolve. It's all about the employee. I used to think it was customer first, satisfaction, but it really is employees first. If you don't have a great culture, you're not going to have a happy client. So we work on that.
Yeah. So, there's a pretty long list of how you participate into the community. I'll read a few of them.
Okay.
I think I've got a list of about 25. We'll just go for a few of them. You got the United States Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Manufacturing, National Multifamily Housing Association. You're board member in many places, Gentlemen of Palm Beach. You're on cystic fibrosis. Obviously, you guys provide services to the National Football League, the National Baseball Association, Major League Baseball. You're part of EO. Forbes Finance Council, Hispanics 100, and I can go on and on and on and on. And running a business is certainly a challenge. yet you find the time to be involved with so many of these other organizations to give back. So let's talk about, because that's what we're all about, profits with purpose, right? Is being able to take the business income that you get that is not necessarily to grow your business more and be able to give back to the community, both in time and in monetary ways. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I think it's vital to be a good steward in your community and to give back. I think it's so important. Like a lot of us who have started our own companies, had a hand up. Someone helped us along the way, helped us come from a community where there was drugs and, issues related to that. And we've all had family members that have gone through health issues and crises. And so you learn from that when you make a profit, you have to give back. You have to help your communities. You have to help the people that you once were in their shoes and help them. Because we have to help our communities. We have to help our local community economics. It's so vital, and it's, so rewarding. The fact that I can sit back from time to time and be part of these programs that help, with housing, with drug crisis, with opioids, with cystic fibrosis, all those things are so rewarding. So I get real joy from it, but I think, we've all come from those places. We've all had these hardships, and to help out, I think is, what we do with our legacies, right? We don't want to be just remembered for creating a company. I think we want to be remembered for what we did. And I think, listen, for my employees, whatever their charities are, whatever their issues are, those are what are important to me. So when you read that list of programs, a lot of those are things that were important to my employees. So we got involved.
Great. So one of the other things I find really interesting in what you find time for is the fact that you advise the government on tax related issues. What's that responsibility like?
Yeah, it's really a great honor, to now be in my 7th year of an 8-year appointment from DC to be one of the people that's involved in the tax roundtable. And just to share that, what happens there is we have 455 people we elect to Congress to create our tax laws. Now, most of them, I would say 99% of them, don't have an accounting background, don't have a tax program background, and never owned a company, but they write our tax laws and they write our tax codes. So, really my appointment is to help them think through some of the tax changes that they want to make. And, the tax pendulum back and forth. Do we raise income tax rates? Do we create different tax credits? And ultimately, anything that we want to do, we've already done. We have a history of doing these things. And so we just try to remind them what happens to our economy when we do these changes. What happened in 1980 when we had tax reform and we did these things? What happened when we raised income tax rates? What happened when we did these deductions and we took them away? So we know what history has showed us when we changed tax code. And really, we just try to tell them what could happen and what the unintended consequences could be. Because at one time, we changed tax code related to real estate industry. What happened was the real estate industry crashed, and this was back in the 80s, and it took 10, 15 years for it to recover, for the banks to recover. So that was just bad tax policy. We don't want to repeat that, right? So, but you have congressmen that are younger, that have never been there when those things happen, and don't have that economic skill set. So, hopefully we're there to provide education. Ultimately, they make the decisions, but we have to remember every decision they make has a profound impact on what could be inflation, what could be hurtful to our economy. And so, again, having the history of doing those things in the past is just a way to kind of learn from those good decisions we made and bad decisions we made.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like to revert that back to a great quote that was once told me when I was a few years younger. Is a new broom may sweep better, but the old broom knows where to find the dirt.
That's
And,
right.
having the experience that you bring to the table is a huge benefit to an entire country, which is phenomenal. And most people just don't know, they don't realize, they don't understand the inner workings. And as you pointed out, some of the younger members that are creating these, what they believe are more intelligent solutions to what probably are going to end up not being. Hopefully we can shed some light. And I appreciate the fact that you do that on our behalf.
Well, it's my pleasure. I enjoy it. And I hope that those contributions, impact our economy in a positive way.
So, as we already mentioned, our business puts a very positive focus on social impact. What do you guys, you have specific initiatives in your company where, you're creating social impact?
Yeah, I mean, every day. I mean, certainly for some of our family here at the company, we've seen, unfortunately, the continued rise of drug overdose, especially for kids 33 and under. It's become the number one cause of death in our country for the age group. And, this fentanyl crisis has, taken 200,000 people a year now from our country. And it's one thing that we're really focused on was to create better awareness. Because, when the kids mess around with opioids now, they don't get a second chance. They're laced with fentanyl. They think they're just buying something to keep awake or, at the colleges or whatever, and they don't get a second chance at life. So we've been working hard with the different governors, attorney generals across our country to really help promote Narcan, which the police and fire stations, if they have that, can save lives on the scene when we have someone that's overdosed. I mean, it can bring them back from, virtually, death. And so we're working hard on that, just the awareness, not only from the governor's standpoint, the attorney generals and the police and fire departments, but bringing awareness to all children, through positive public influence or also from social influencers, people that they relate to on TikTok and Facebook and all those Instagram things that I'm not on, but I think, so that's one thing that's really a focus on. I hope we can turn that tide somehow. And, it's unfortunate traveling the country that every day it seems I run into someone that's lost a child to a drug issue, just going out with kids, fooling around and not really knowing what they're doing. And so that's near and dear to our hearts. Certainly we lost a family member to that, just it can just happen like that. And like I said, and this, they don't get a second chance anymore.
Right.
So hopefully we can create some awareness, not only with our company, but other companies and, the people that we touch.
Yeah, it's truly something needed. So more awareness is certainly a great way to hopefully stop the trend that has been unfortunate. So one of my favorite questions to ask CEOs of businesses is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
The best piece of advice I've ever been given is when something doesn't go your way, or something goes bad, which is going to happen in any business, just don't have that rear view mirror, right? Just move forward, learn from it, continue to be positive, continue to march on. You have to have a sharp memory and you can't dwell on the mistakes you make. You just have to learn from them and be positive from them and know that you'll be better from them. Because I think it's easy when you're starting out to really dwell on something you did wrong, or maybe you had a bad client experience. Maybe you didn't get the report out on time. Maybe you just missed the deadlines, but you're going to get better from those and you're going to learn from those, and you can't let those things defeat you. Great.
Is there anything that I haven't mentioned that you want to touch on?
Well, listen, we really appreciate, this honor to be on your show. I would tell every person out there that when you're working with your accounting firm, they're always going to be able to get you to a certain level, and you're still going to have taxes due. And that's an opportunity for someone like ourselves or a firm in our industry, which is specialty tax, to work with your accounting firm and work on getting that even lower, right? Because your accounting firm is going to need resources. And the big thing is, they're not going to know about all these employer retention tax credits. They're not going to know about innovation credits. They're not going to know about all these sophisticated things. Our tax code changed significantly 4 times in the last 3 years. And they're just trying to catch up, and they're trying to get people back into the office to work. So, use this as a resource and make sure that you're working with your CPA firm. And I'll give you one advice that I think is really good. Just go on Google and say tax credits for media company and see what comes up, or tax credits for small business, or tax credits for investment or incentives, and go to your accountant. Sometimes you have to be proactive. Don't let your accountant come to you reactively. Be proactive, go online, find things you think could be helpful for your taxes. Listen, tax is not fun, it's not sexy, but it can be your source of capital if you preserve it. And so go online, Google a few things, send them to your accountant, be more proactive in the relationship. And I think that'll be helpful.
I like that last statement. It's a source of capital. Most businesses don't realize that proper tax policy can be a source of capital. And that's just great. That's great advice in itself.
Thank you. Yeah.
So where can listeners go to learn more about you, and if they want to contact you? And we'll make sure we get it into the show notes.
Yeah, sure. Listen, come to our website, engineeredtaxservices.com. Every day we put up tax alerts, things that we think can help you and your accounting firm with looking at certain changing tax codes. Everything's changing daily because of COVID, because of the inflation. And so every day we get a new tax credit to help employees and employers. And we post those so that you and your accounting firm can have access to that knowledge, that ever-changing tax law. And hopefully, maybe one of those things works for you. Maybe you save a couple $1,000s in rules. We just had this new rule called the Augusta rule. So you can take your property that you live in and calculate what you could have made in rent for 14 days. This is applicable to everyone. It's called the Augusta rule. And you can take that amount and deduct it on your tax return, right? We made this rule an exception for COVID, and no one takes advantage of it. So look, for some people it can add up to a few $1,000s, but you take that times your tax rate, it's could be $100,000 or $1,000 in cash in your pocket. That's one. Think of this. We changed the rules so that a lot of things that you have pets, if they're of impact to you for social impact, then you can write off those, expenses with having a pet, right? And
Wow.
So I just want you guys to think of this. Now that you're working from home, there's so many expenses you can take on your tax return from working at home. Utilities, the IT, all this connectivity that you pay for to go online, the car expense for going to a business meeting, all these things that maybe we haven't taken before because we just go to an office. Now you're at your home. We just won a case in IRS tax court where the guy was able to deduct his lawn maintenance at his house for business purposes because he wanted his property to look nice when the clients come over. So I'm just telling you, there's a lot of little benefits there, and the world's changed. We're not going back to the offices probably to a certain extent, but take those deductions for working from home. If you have pets that you use to help you, those can be deducted as well. That just goes right under medical expenses. People miss that. There's a lot of little things, and hopefully you can find those things on our website.
Cool. Thank you so much, Julio.
My pleasure.
It was great catching up, and thank you for being a guest on Profits with Purpose.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Profits with Purpose. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you are interested in reducing the expenses of your business, creating positive social impact, or contributing to the show, reach out to Marc or Yanik with Evolved Profits by emailing podcast@evolvedprofits.com or visiting the website www.evolvedprofits.com.